What does sustained attack mean?
What's sustained?
I don't know, like sustained, like for a while. What's a while?
Like, like a while.
Like hours?
Yeah, maybe hours.
Like longer than time you spent with girl at the
Epstein place?
Like that time you spent at Epstein place. I mean, I'd like it if this peace deal made people talk less about the Epstein stuff, will you please?
Хорошо.
Our odyssey into the... Wow. We start our odyssey into the Epstein land from here. And we're gonna see how it all fits. And Clinton, apparently. And then there's the Guardian article that I've been sent. So what do we know? US lawmakers have released more than 20,000 pages of documents from the estate of the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, including some that mention President Donald Trump. I don't know. At this point, Epstein is such a character that I feel like sex offender does not even describe this person correctly. Sex offender. When I think sex offender, I think someone that commits sex offense, not someone that is a fixer and organizer of many people's sex offenses, right? Yeah, sex criminal. Sex offender doesn't really cut it. He didn't just perform sexual offenses. He was literally an organizer of sexual crimes for other people. It was like a host sex slave trafficker. That definitely fits the bill. Sex slave trafficker, yeah. And I think sex offender, I think some pervert that did something, not a super rich financier that has an island with sex slaves on it that invites powerful, influential people to partake. That's early on Wednesday, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee published 3 email exchanges, including correspondence between Epstein, who died in 2019 in prison, and his longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for sex trafficking. Also, interestingly, I know only of one email more in detail. The one in which Epstein said, if you want to understand Trump more, if you want to have more contact with Trump, then go through me to Putin. If you want me to, I know of that email. Interestingly enough. And how depraved Trump is, that he has not met such a depraved person, which is also interesting. He also released emails between Epstein and the author Michael Wolff, who has written numerous books about Trump. I think these are the emails that I've seen. The ones regarding Michael Wolff. Within hours, House Republicans released a massive tranche of documents to counter what they said was a Democratic effort to cherry-pick documents. They also said it was an attempt to create a fake narrative to slander President Trump. What is the fake narrative and what is the real narrative? It's a pretty difficult situation to say that this is a fake narrative, considering that what is the real narrative? Oh, he might have done some bad things regarding diddling children, but that's not the complete picture? Is that it? You know what I mean? What is the real narrative? The emails were obtained by the committee after it sub-opened Epstein's estate. No, what the fuck did I just read? The emails were obtained by the committee after it how do you read this? Subpoenaed Epstein's estate as part of its own probe into the federal investigation of Epstein. Insane. While House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt said the emails were selectively leaked. Subpoenaed. Okay. White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt said that emails were selectively leaked by House Democrats to liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear President Trump. Okay, I really want to know what the real narrative supposedly is. I really want to know. Because that is a very interesting claim that is being pushed here. Very interesting indeed. Holy crap. I have a hole here. The fact remains that President Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club decades ago for being a creep to his female employees, including Jeffrey, she said. Yeah, but it also is a fact that Trump is a creep himself and he partook in some of Epstein's stuff, allegedly. Listen, Trump never did any illegal stuff with any minor. Now consensual gay smacks on the other hand. I mean, I don't really care about consensual gay sex stuff. It's just, it's whatever. If Clinton wanted to have a real estate lover, then who am I to criticize, right? Fido came here. Fido is also interested in the Epstein stuff, but he did not come closer because he's ashamed of liking the Epstein stuff. Chodź, no chodź tu. No chodź. Fido, no chodź. She's standing here. He's very nervous. He knows very important topics are being discussed right now. You're gonna have to edit this out, by the way. He's looking at me. He's giving me the side eye. Co? No chodź. Chodź, Fido, chodź do mnie, chodź. Chodź, no chodź. No chodź. Co jest, Busiu? Chodź, Fajdusiu, chodź, Fajdo. Chodź do mnie, no chodź. No chodź. No chodź. Fajdo. Chodź do mnie. No chodź. No chodź. Fajdo, no chodź. No co? No co? No co? No co? Ojej, no co? No co? Ojej, no co? No co? To? Okay, let's continue. Before I get too distracted. Trump was a friend of Epstein's for years, but the president has said they fell out in the early 2000s, 2 years before Epstein was first arrested. Trump has consistently denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. I mean, if they've been friends for many years, and I assume that Epstein has been doing his thing for many years, that he hasn't just started doing it 2 years before he got arrested, then a lot of questions. Because I assume that Epstein has not just started his activity 2 years before he got arrested, conveniently after Trump cut ties. Importance high. I have been thinking about that. I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I am 75% there. Whoops. What Epstein Maxwell email says. The first email released by Democrats is from 2011 and is between Epstein and Maxwell. In it, Epstein writes to Maxwell, "I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump." The same that we just read. Maxwell responded, "I have been thinking about that." The victim's name was redacted in the email the Democrats released, although the unredacted version is in the tranche released by the committee that shows the name Virginia. The White House said it refers to the late Virginia Giuffre, a prominent Epstein accuser who died by suicide earlier this year. In a statement, the White House said, Giuffre repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever and couldn't have been friendlier to her in their limited interactions. Limited interactions, huh? Giuffre said in a 2016 deposition that she never saw Trump participate in any abuse. 2016. Wouldn't that be when Trump won the first term? Interesting. I'm not here to create conspiracy theories, but I think it would be in a victim's best interest not to openly attack the most powerful man in the country, even if he was guilty of anything. (2016) deposition. And in a memoir released this year, she did not accuse the president of any wrongdoing. Interesting. Maybe he really didn't do anything to her. Asked why the name was originally redacted, Representative Robert Garcia, the leading Democrat of the U.S. House Oversight Committee, said the party will never release names of victims in line with the wishes of the families. So basically what the Republicans are saying here, so this person said that Trump never did wrong. She kept saying that Trump never did anything wrong. She committed suicide, and even before committing suicide, she never implicated Trump. She had nothing to lose by implicating Trump, and yet she never did. And the argument being put forward here is that by censoring the name, they are making it out that Trump actually did something to a person, even though that person has denied it time and time and time again. I assume that is what the Republicans are saying in regards of manipulating the narrative. And that is why they asked, that is why the question, why did you censor the name? To which they said, we just censor all of the names of victims. Epstein says Trump never got a message. In another string of messages, Epstein implies that Trump had met his victims but said the president himself had never received a message from them. In an email Epstein sent to his own email address in February 2019, months before he was arrested on federal sex trafficking charges, Epstein cited the name of a victim which was redacted in the document, saying the person worked at Mar-a-Lago. Was it the person that Trump said was stolen from him? Was it that person? Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period, Epstein wrote, adding that the testimony of one of his staff confirmed it. He never got a message, Epstein added. But there we go. At least I'm starting to get a picture as to what type of manipulation the Democrats are being accused of. Though I would say it still does not mean anything. And just in the case of this particular email and this particular victim, the whole thing just seems to be inconclusive. Because just because she never implicated him directly, it does not follow that he definitely 100% did not do anything. So it's just, we don't know, I guess. We don't know. Inconclusive. Never got a message. Maxwell, who is reportedly preparing to ask Trump to commute her sentence, also recently told federal officials that she never saw Trump in any inappropriate setting and never observed them receiving a massage from Epstein's victims. Trump has strenuously denied any wrongdoing and having any knowledge of Epstein's crimes, which doesn't really mean anything. Again, of course he would, like, no matter what, he would always deny everything. So that does not mean absolutely anything. It's just meaningless. We can just safely ignore anything that Trump says on the matter. No matter whether or not he is innocent or not, we can just safely ignore anything that Trump says. Considering that any person accused of such stuff will say, oh no, I didn't do it. No matter if they're guilty or not. In very rare cases when you want to strike a deal or something like that with the justice system, will people plead guilty in order to strike some arrangement. But usually people will deny. Especially in Trump's position of power. What the Epstein-Wolf emails say. In exchanges with Wolf, the author Epstein discusses his connection to Trump, who at the time was campaigning for the presidency ahead of his first term in office. So 2015-ish period. In a second email exchange released by Democrats, Wolf writes to Epstein in 2015 to notify him that CNN is planning to ask Trump about their relationship, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Convenient as hell, and people will plead guilty even if they didn't do what they were accused of. If it means that they will, because sometimes, and usually it happens to people that are not in positions of power, they will be trapped by the justice system and they will basically be screwed, even if they did not do what they did. So they will be told, hey, we can make a deal. You can plea a bargain with us, but you have to basically plead guilty in order to get that deal with us, and people do it. So, but people in the position of Trump are rarely forced to do such a thing. If ever. I think that the whole pleading guilty, even if a person has not done a thing, is reserved for people that have no means of mounting a proper legal defense against the accusations. Let me see. Epstein responds, if we're able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Wolf writes, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or, if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. This Wolf person is weirdly Machiavellian in all this. Very, very... I'm noting that the Wolf person is very Machiavellian in this whole scheme of advising Epstein how to best profit from the situation. He adds, of course it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Oh boy. Oh my god. That sounds terrifyingly accurate. That sounds horribly accurate. And also just horrifying considering just what Epstein did. And to frame it as political correctness. Wokeness even. In a separate email from October 2016, days before the US presidential election, Wolf offers Epstein a chance to sit for an interview that could finish Trump. Ooh. There's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Interested? Wolf writes to Epstein. Seeing how we now live in 2025 and nothing came of it, we now have the power of hindsight is 2020 and know exactly how that went, which path this took. A third email released by Democrats is dated January 2019, during Trump's first term in office. In it, Epstein tells Wolf, Trump said he asked me to resign. Apparently referring to his membership at the president's Mar-a-Lago club, adding he was never a member ever. Epstein adds that of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Responding to the release in a video he posted to Instagram, Walt said, some of those emails are between Epstein and me, with Epstein discussing his relationship with Donald Trump. I have been trying to talk about this story for a very long time now, he added. This is I guess, Reuters. Andrew emailed Epstein in 2011. Damn, the dates are getting older and older, but this is interesting. I guess there is some stuff to talk about here. But it is very difficult to claim that the narrative is being across the board manipulated. Maybe you could make the case with that first email when the victim's name was censored and the victim never implicated Trump, but I don't see the manipulation of the narrative anywhere so far. As well as Trump, a released document also mentions Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew. He responded to an email forwarded by Ghislaine Maxwell via Jeffrey Epstein in March 2011 about alleged sexual activity with a masseuse working for Epstein. How old was that masseuse? Andrew's reply reads, Hey there, what's all this? I don't know anything about this. You must say so, please. It has nothing to do with me. I can't take any more of this. Maxwell had forwarded a right of reply email from the Mail on Sunday on 4th March, making numerous allegations about Maxwell, Epstein, and then Prince Andrew. The right of reply email states that a woman whose name is redacted in the release document was introduced to Andrew by the disgraced financier in 2001 at Maxwell's house in London, where she had sex with Andrew. Of course. On 6th of March 2011, the Mail on Sunday published a story including a photograph of Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre. Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing and has not faced any charges. Let's see.
In the interest of transparency, why not just go ahead, release the full files on Epstein, get this all over with?
This administration has done more with
There you go. Of course, this is a non-answer. Hey, why not release the files? We have done a lot.
To transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein than any administration ever. In fact, this administration, the Department of Justice, has turned over tens of thousands of documents to the American people. We are cooperating and showing support for the House Oversight Committee. That's part of the reason you are seeing these documents that were released today, because of the House Oversight Committee's and Republicans' efforts to
So why not just release all of it?
get these out to the public. This administration also moved, the Department of Justice also moved to unseal grand jury testimony, which we know, unfortunately, a judge declined those requests. So this administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now, they're talking about it all of a sudden because President Trump is in the Oval Office. But when Joe Biden was sitting in there, the Democrats never brought this up. This was an issue that they cared about because they actually don't care about the victims in these cases. They care about trying to score political points against President Trump.
Okay, that doesn't mean anything, actually. The motive of the Democrats does not matter to me. Even if they're bringing it up now in order to score points, that doesn't mean that it's not true. She's not even denying that it's not true. She's just saying, oh, they're bringing up all those horrible things now. Why not bring it up earlier? But that's not really the great argument that you think this is. This is just criticizing. This is just criticizing the Democrats for selectively weaponizing something horrible. But you know what? Regardless of whether or not that's true, it doesn't make it any less horrible. So again, that's not really the super cool argument that she thinks she's making, because she's not refuting the thing being horrible part. She's not really refuting the, you know what I mean, right?
As we have, of course, seen with this government shutdown. And this entire thing, again, it's not a coincidence to the American people at home. There are no coincidences in Washington, D.C. And it is not a coincidence that the Democrats leaked these emails to the fake news this morning ahead of Republicans.
Fake news? Why don't those news have licenses?
Reopening the government. This is another distraction campaign by the Democrat and the liberal media, and it's why I'm being asked questions about Epstein instead of the government reopening because of Republicans and President Trump.
I mean, if it's horrible, then it's not really a distraction, because that would mean that Trump is a criminal. Why would that be a distraction? I think that's pretty important. The question of whether or not Trump is a sex criminal, if the most powerful man in the world is a horrible pedophile, allegedly. How can that be considered a distraction? Interesting. Peter Mandelson contacted Epstein in 2016. Lord Peter Mandelson, who sacked as the UK's ambassador to the US in September over his links to Epstein, and also who was sacked, is also mentioned in the new documents. I have not. Today I'm doing a serious deep dive, okay? I'm not doing any onions. The only funny bit is the puppet regime short that I watched at the beginning of this. That's the only funny thing that I'm gonna do. They show he was in contact with Epstein as late as 2016, according to the documents. There were a lot of people that went to the island, that were on the train or whatever else Epstein organized for people. A lot of powerful politicians and a lot of powerful people in general were part of this, so. The latest previous reported contact between the pair was when then business secretary took advice from Epstein in a banking deal in March 2010, just months after the American businessman's release from prison for child sex offenses. As reported by the Daily Telegraph, an email from Epstein to Lord Mandelson on 6 November 2016, shortly after the peer's birthday, reads, 63 years old, you made it. Wow. Lord Mandelson replies less than 90 minutes later saying, I have decided to extend my life by spending more of it in the US. Epstein then replies, in the in the Donald White House, referring to the U.S. presidential election due later that week. Epstein goes on to say, "You were right about staying away from Andrew. I was writing you were staying with Rinaldo." A reference to Lord Mandelson's now husband, Reinaldo Avilda da Silva. Lord Mandelson has repeatedly said he regrets his relationship with Epstein. He declined to comment on the emails when approached by the BBC. Okay. What the survivors have said. Annie Farmer, one of Epstein's accusers and key witnesses in Maxwell's sex trafficking trial, shared a statement after the emails were released. In it, she said, "The more information that comes out about Jeffrey Epstein, the more questions we're left with. Survivors deserve more than a trickle of information." Farmer demanded the full release of the so-called Epstein files and said the estimated 1,000 women and girls who were harmed by Epstein and his associates deserve full transparency. So that's the emails. That is, we've covered the emails. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Trump is used to shaking off criticism, but the Epstein story is different. How old is this? Donald Trump has called the Jeffrey Epstein story a dead issue. Well, it's not. It's clearly not dead. Not after the vote of the... No, it's not clearly not dead. But in a week of blockbuster new revelations, Epstein's criminality and its consequences continue to haunt many of his former associates. The so-called birthday book of wishes given to Epstein in 2003, that was publicly released on Monday, has given new ammunition to Trump's critics and will also keep his base and wider public clamoring for more details. The so-called birthday book of wishes given to Epstein in 2003 has given new ammunition. There you go. That's how the birthday book changed the story. I know the birthday book. Yeah. The note from Trump. Crazy. Here's a story bigger than the president. But then we have to read about the vote to release the files, right? We have to do this. Vote to release Trump files. And then we get into the, I guess, Trump sucking off allegedly Bill Clinton. I have no clue how that fits into all of that. Reuters, U.S. Congress approves release of Epstein files from 4 days ago. So when are they going to be released? When are the files going to be released? I'm waiting.
The Republican-controlled U.S. Congress voted almost unanimously on Tuesday to force the release of more files on the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The House of Representatives passed the measure with a vote of 427 to 1.
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The resolution requiring the release of all unclassified records on Epstein was then sent to the Republican majority Senate, which swiftly approved it.
Okay.
Here's Senate Democratic Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
So when are we gonna see the full release of the files then? I assume that's gonna happen soon, right? The vote happened. They all said, let's release it. So they're gonna release it now, right? We're gonna learn everything now, right?
People have waited long enough. Jeffrey Epstein's victims have waited long enough. Let the truth come out. Let transparency reign. And I urge my Republican colleagues, let the Senate act today.
Is there an objection? Without objection, so ordered.
The Senate has now passed the Epstein bill as soon as it comes over from the House.
The bill could now go to...
Okay, so what's going to happen now? The real answer is probably not. No way. You're telling me that justice will not be served? No, you're lying to me.
US President Donald Trump for his signature as soon as Wednesday. According to two people with direct knowledge of the matter, the White House was caught off guard by how quickly the measure passed through Congress.
Wednesday, wait, hasn't Wednesday passed?
Saying they had expected it to take longer in the Senate.
Well, too bad. It didn't. It was an express vote.
A senior White House official said that Trump plans to sign the bill when it reaches his desk.
Yes, well, we'll see. Has he since signed it? Has he signed it?
It's an outcome Trump fought against for months, before an about-face 2 days before. That was after public infighting among Republicans, including between Trump and some of his formerly most loyal supporters. Here's Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene.
He did, okay. So we are going to see... So we are going to learn everything, no? It passed, he signed it, so the files are gonna be released.
Ahead of the vote.
What clause? Maybe it will be mentioned in the article. Maybe the clause... I know, I'm an optimist, okay? And I'm an optimist. We will learn the entire truth. And... The Legal Eagle is just a doomer. Maybe we'll just... After this, we'll watch the Legal Eagle video. But I think Legal Eagle is just a doomer, negative Nancy, and I think we will learn everything very soon, and everything will end well. And Trump maybe will or maybe will not go to jail, and will be governing the country from jail.
These women have fought the most horrific fight that no woman should have to fight, and they did it by banding together and never giving up. And that's what we did by fighting so hard against the most powerful people in the world, even the President of the United States, in order to make this vote happen today.
Is that what made Marjorie Taylor Greene break with Trump? The Epstein files?
Appeared frustrated about the tension surrounding the issue hours before the vote.
As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick...
Interesting enough, at some point, I think Trump said, whatever there is in the files, please remember about my great successes as president, which is a giant red flag for me to hear. You know, whatever this shows, remember that I did many great things. Like, uh-oh.
Pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right.
Epstein was a New York financier who fraternized with some of the most powerful men in the country. Trump's social...
Fraternized? That is one way to... That is such a weird way to put it. Fraternized? Come on. That is very weird phrasing.
Socialized and partied with Epstein in the 1990s and 2000s before what he calls a rift. The president has said he has no connection to Epstein's crimes and has called the issue a democratic hoax.
Of course. Let's go to Legal Eagle. Okay? Let's go to Legal Eagle. Congress just rebelled against Trump. Is that? Or Epstein implicates Trump? Which video? Because there's a lot. Well, there's a lot. There's two. Which one? Which one? Which one's the one? The latest one. Okay. No! Release the files. No. Look at his face.
To the Epstein files? Well, don't hold. Are we ever going to see the rest of the Epstein files?
Yeah, of course. We just had a vote on it and it passed decisively. Of course we're going to see the Epstein files. I don't even have a doubt in my mind that we will.
Well, don't hold your breath. But
Why?
thanks to the bipartisan efforts of Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, after months of fighting, the House finally took a vote to release the files.
Yeah.
And it turns out that a lot of Republicans were in favor of releasing the files.
Nays are 427. The nays are 1.
Who knew? Well, definitely not the Republicans. Meanwhile, Epstein's surviving victims kept the pressure on Trump.
And to the president, I want to send a clear message to you. While I do understand that your position has changed on the Epstein files, and I'm grateful that you have pledged to sign this bill.
Let's see. Has he has signed it, so
I can't help to be skeptical of what the agenda is.
In the end, faced with no other option, even Trump had to concede that the files should be released. So what was the one weird trick that finally forced the House to do the right thing? Why is everyone now suddenly an expert on congressional discharge petitions? And what happens now? Will we actually ever see any files? No.
yeah, of course. We're about to see them any day now, I think, no?
Candidate Trump said he would release the so-called Epstein files.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
Once he took office, though, Trump changed his tune, claiming that there's nothing to see here, it's all a hoax created by the Democrats.
So this is a Democrat hoax.
Well, if it's a hoax, then you should just demonstrate it by releasing the files. Actually, it being a hoax should be all the more reason to release it.
And in July, after claiming that the files were on Attorney General Pam Bondi's desk, Trump's Justice Department announced that there was no Epstein client list and that no more files would be released. Trump claimed the...
Wasn't there a politician that said the list is on my desk here or something silly like that?
Entire Epstein issue was boring and told everyone to just move on.
It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid.
Yes. Children being used as sex slaves on an island and many other places. Boring. Boring.
But it's boring. And
I'm bored.
Understand why it keeps going.
And Trump claimed that he wasn't a fan of Epstein and that he hadn't spoken to Epstein for a decade and a half. Yet Trump was weirdly furious at the idea that any more Epstein files might get released. When the Wall Street Journal ran a story about Trump's creepy message in Epstein's 2003 birthday book, Trump sued the publication for $10 billion. In a lawsuit that
$10 billion
is likely to get him sanctioned before he recovers $1, let alone $10 billion. And it seemed when anyone, including Trump's former supporters, called for the disclosure of the documents, he lashed out at them. But since it was clear that the administration wasn't going to release the files on its own, Representatives Ro Khanna, a Democrat from California, and Representative Thomas Massie, a Republican from Kentucky, introduced the Epstein Files Transparency Act. In response, Trump personally attacked
Thomas Massie, the worst Republican congressman, and an almost guaranteed no vote each and every time, is an embarrassment to Kentucky. He's lazy, slow-moving, and totally disingenuous. A real loser. Never has anything positive to add. Looking for someone good to run against this guy. Someone I can endorse and vigorously campaign for. Okay.
Massie on social media, calling him, quote, a real loser, and proclaiming that he was looking for someone to run against Massie in his primary. Khanna and Massie's bill would require the Department of Justice to release the vast tranche of files within 30 days, with almost no exceptions. This includes files on Epstein and Maxwell, flight logs and travel records, Epstein's associates and co-conspirators, immunity deals or plea bargains he was offered, government communications about Epstein and the accusations against him.
That's fair. Those things should be released. Yeah, I think so. For the sake of transparency. If this is really just a hoax, yeah.
And records related to Epstein's death. The Epstein Files Transparency Act also specifically says that no files can be withheld just because they would be embarrassing to government officials, public figures, or foreign dignitaries, which is probably making a lot of people really nervous right now. The only things that could be withheld were details that would identify—
Also, embarrassing is one way to put it. I would say incriminating is the more fitting word than embarrassing. Oh, John X abused a child. How embarrassing. It just doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound fitting.
identify the victims, child sexual abuse materials, classified information, images depicting death or physical abuse, and documents that would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution. Hang on to that because we're going to come back to it later. But given Trump's very public opposition to releasing the Epstein files, it was pretty obvious that Khanna and Massey's bill wasn't going to progress the usual way. So Khanna tried another method, attaching an amendment to another piece of legislation. When Republicans defeated this, Khanna and Massey came up with a new plan. They would employ a rarely used procedural mechanism, one weird trick if you will, to force the disclosure of the Epstein files. But all this talk of secret government documents reminds me it's probably a good time to wipe all your personal and private information off the internet. Your cell phone number, home address, email address, private social media accounts, and tons
Oh my God, ad read. Okay, I'm gonna go to the toilet now. I'll be right back. Ad read at a time like this? Really? Oh wait, that reminds me that there's a sponsor that I have to... No, I'm going to the toilet. I'll be right back.
Because Incogni wipes your personal data from the internet by searching the internet, reaching out to data brokers and websites directly on your behalf, and forcing them to remove your private information. If they resist, Incogni will take care of that too, because Incogni fights back. But what makes Incogni truly powerful in taking back control of your privacy is the custom removals feature. It allows you to flag an unlimited number of sites where your data is exposed, and you can even have Incogni's privacy experts review and tackle the most uncooperative data brokers and people search sites. Now, I've been using Incogni for years now, and in that time you can see I've been on hundreds of lists, some of which had a high sensitivity score, meaning the broker had tons of data on me. Luckily, Incogni has completed hundreds of takedowns in that time. I could never do this myself, so thank you to Incogni for weeks worth of work and adding me to over 40 suppression lists. And Incogni will continue to conduct ongoing removals because even if the broker removes your data once, they can always collect it and publish it again. So if online privacy is important to you, give Incogni a try. If you scan the code on screen or click on the link in the description, you'll get 60% off their annual unlimited plan. Or try Incogni risk-free for 30 days. If you decide you want to keep it, you'll still get the 60% off discount so long as you use my code LegalEagle, all one word, at checkout. So sign up for Incogni or I'll see you in court. Now, typically bills in Congress are introduced and then referred to the committee with subject matter jurisdiction. That committee may hold hearings, debate the bill, and then vote on whether to report it back to the full House. After a bill is reported, it's sent to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee recommends how the bill will be debated on the floor and whether amendments will be allowed. Then the Rules Committee reports a resolution that sets those terms. Now, the House considers this, and if the House adopts the resolution, this controls whether amendments can be offered and how long the debate can go on. Once the resolution governing debate is adopted...
I did forget mute, sorry. I was talking.
The House will follow those rules and the bill is considered on the floor under the terms established by the Rules Committee. Now, the Epstein Files Transparency Act...
Okay, so the things happened, right? The vote happened, and we're in the clear. We're okay. We're gonna get the truth, finally. Thank you. Nice. I've been waiting for this for years.
Was referred to the Committee on the Judiciary, where it seemed destined to die a quiet death, like about 94% of bills, which die in committee. Massey and Khanna, though, came up with a plan to bypass Speaker Mike Johnson and the usual Rules Committee process and force a floor debate on the vote. Specifically, they decided to use what's called a discharge petition. Now, a discharge petition is a way for ordinary House members to get a bill considered on the floor, even if it hasn't passed out of committee. This procedural mechanism was originally created in 1910 as part of the revolt against the overpowered congressional leadership, which had made it very difficult for regular members to get their bills introduced. To move a discharge petition forward, the Congress members have to circulate a petition and get 218 House members, a majority, to sign. And discharge petitions are governed by House Rule 15, Clause 2. Now, there are two kinds of discharge petitions in the House. One can be used to force a vote on a bill, and the other can force a vote on a procedural rule. Now, discharging a bill normally requires waiting at least 30 legislative days after that bill has been sent to the committee, and Khanna and Massey didn't want to wait that long. So Representatives Khanna and Massey cleverly decided to create a discharge petition for a rule. They created a rule called House Resolution 581. The text of House Resolution 581 contained the instruction that, quote, immediately upon adoption of this resolution, the House shall proceed to the consideration in the House of the bill H.R. 185 to advance responsible policies. H.R. 185 was originally an unrelated bill, but once adopted, the rule would automatically replace the entire contents of H.R. 185 with the text of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And by doing it this way, Khanna and Massey avoided the 30-day waiting period required for a discharging bill. And doing this also allowed Massey and Khanna to maintain control over the substance of the bill itself. House Resolution 581 explicitly waives all usual points of order except 1 hour of debate and 1 motion to recommit. Now, we're far into the weeds of congressional rulemaking, but if you're watching this channel, odds are you get off on this sort of thing. But if Khanna and Massey had use the discharge petition on the bill instead of using the discharge petition on this rule, that bill would be subject to all the usual congressional shenanigans. Other representatives could attach a dozen amendments to the bill, leadership could water it down or even gut it, defectors could require that, for example, there be a broad exemption for any material that might have national security implications. The list goes on. But by discharging a rule instead of a bill, on the other hand, they can essentially freeze the content of the bill, forcing an up or down vote on the text that Khanna and Massey drafted.
Nice.
And to move the discharge petition forward, though, they would need to get those 218 signatures. The Democrats were on board because once they figured out that the contents of the files seemed to be catastrophic for President Trump, they changed their tune and supported releasing those files. But at the time, there were only 213 of them. So they'd need some Republican support, which was going to be a challenge since lately the Republican Party is entirely subservient to Trump, who has made it clear that he would oppose any efforts to disclose the documents. Still, Congressperson Massey managed to get 3 other Republican representatives to sign his discharge petition. And that include Representatives Nancy Mace, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Boebert.
So that is why she broke with Trump. Epstein. Epstein was the reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Jewish space laser lady, parted ways with Trump.
With these Republican defections and
yeah, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is, I just saw it in the thing, she's gonna quit Congress, isn't she? Isn't Marjorie Taylor Greene on the way out? She's quitting her position.
Public pressure to hold a vote and release the Epstein files, Republican Speaker of the House,
she's resigning,
Mike Johnson, did the only thing he could do. He held a vote and released the files. No,
Yeah, it was really... She had a really weird turnaround lately. I've seen her interviews in which she said, I was duped. I was tricked into all those awful things that I believed. Now I understand how untrue they were and that I was just a naive victim. And I'm just... Okay. I just raised my eyebrow. She also had some horrible takes on Ukraine as well. She was talking about, I think, biolabs. I think she pushed the conspiracy against some biolab stuff.
I'm just kidding. Instead, Speaker Johnson shut the entire House down in early August during the government shutdown and kept it shut down for months on end. Johnson claimed he had many reasons for opposing the discharge petition. He was worried about the victims, the House Oversight Committee was already investigating, but his critics claimed that there was only one reason, that Trump opposed the disclosure of the documents and Johnson was doing his bidding.
I wonder why.
The House returned, Massey and Khanna were no less determined to move this forward, but they still needed one more vote.
And I think when we return in September, we'll get phase 2 of the Epstein files, because we'll get, I believe, every
This is a good video. It sort of breaks it all down.
Democrat and at least a dozen Republicans who want transparency and justice.
Help was on the way, though, because in a September special election, Arizona elected Democratic Representative Adelita Grijalva to take the place of her father, who passed away. So Khanna and Massey would have their 218th vote. Or they would have if Johnson had allowed her to be sworn in. Instead, Speaker Johnson deliberately slow-walked Representative Grijalva's swearing in.
Oh my God, really? Just for the Epstein thing?
Time that the Congress was shut down. Johnson made all kinds of excuses for this delay. First, he said the election results needed to be certified, even though previous special election winners had been sworn in pretty much immediately. Then he claimed Grijalva couldn't be sworn in when Congress was in recess.
She won her election after the House was out of session.
When people pointed out that other representatives have, Johnson claimed that that was because they'd already flown their families and friends in to watch them be sworn in, and Representative Grijalva had not. And he argued that it just wouldn't be as fun for Representative Grijalva to be sworn in if the rest of the members weren't there. There would be no, quote, pomp and circumstance.
She deserves to have all the pomp and circumstance that everybody else does. She deserves to have a full House of members and go down and do the speech.
Are you kidding me? This guy, wow. Of all the weakest, stupidest justifications in the world. Wow.
Her family and friends in the balcony.
But Democrats claimed that the real reason for this delay was that Johnson didn't want Grijalva to be the 218th signature on the Epstein files discharge petition.
Yeah.
So more than a month and a half passed, and a lawsuit was filed.
Spineless. Oh yeah, spineless. I mean, Mike Johnson has very much experience in blocking things, just like he was blocking aid for 8 months or more for Ukraine in 2024.
on behalf of Grijalva, and Trump continued to try to block the release of the files. Some sources claim that Trump even pulled Representative Boebert into the Situation Room to try to get her to remove her signature from the discharge petition. But Boebert, Green, and Mace refused to back down, and Representative Grijalva was finally sworn in on November 12th. And not surprisingly, Representative Grijalva immediately added her name to the discharge petition.
What a shocker.
Finally giving Kana and Massey their 218th signature. Now, under House Rule 15, Section 2C1, though, 7 more legislative
So
days—
we won, because I count myself among those that want the files to be released. So we won, we're gonna get transparency and justice, right? Right? It's gonna happen any day now, I guess.
Had to pass before one of the signatories can notify the House that they intend to offer the discharge petition. After that, Speaker Johnson would have 2 days to schedule the vote. And because his efforts to stymie Representative Grijalva's swearing in failed, and he was now staring down the inevitable discharge petition, Speaker Johnson was faced with an uncomfortable choice. He could either let Representatives Kana and Massey's Rebel Alliance force the vote, or he could take the matters into his own hands, try to save some face, and schedule the vote himself. So he took the face-saving option and grudgingly promised to expedite the process and hold a vote on the Epstein Files Transparency Act this week. Johnson, though, still claimed that the discharge petition was reckless. And meanwhile, Trump continued to rail against the release of the documents. On Truth Social, the president declared that this was just the Democrats.
The Democrats are doing everything in their wizarding power to push the Epstein hoax again, despite the DOJ releasing 50,000 pages of documents in order to deflect from all of their bad policies and losses, especially the shutdown embarrassment, where their party is in total disarray and has no idea what to do. Some weak Republicans have fallen into their clutches because they're soft and foolish. What the fuck? Oh my god, whenever Trump writes anything, it just puts a weird smile on my face because they're soft and foolish. Okay. Epstein was a Democrat, and he is the Democrats' problem, not the Republicans' problem. Ask Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, and Larry Summers about Epstein. They know all about him. Don't waste your time with Trump. I have a country to run. Weird.
That's, quote, pushing the Epstein hoax again. For my own part, I'm fascinated as to which part of this he thinks is the hoax. But he criticized
I also wonder.
Quote, weak Republicans who have fallen into their clutches because they are soft and foolish. And Trump escalated his attacks on Massey specifically, personally insulting Massey.
Soft and foolish. I will use that as an insult moving forward. If there ever happens a very heated debate with somebody, I don't have many heated debates, but if there ever happens one, I will tell the person, you are soft and foolish.
For recently remarrying after the June 2024 death of his first wife. And one of Trump's top political advisors called Massey garbage in a Twitter post. And that same political advisor worked to primary Massey in Kentucky. Trump also attacked Green, declaring that he was withdrawing his support from her, that she was wacky and
yeah, hold on. Yeah, I want to read the whole thing. I want to read the whole bit. I want to read the entire bit. I'm withdrawing my support for an endorsement of Congresswoman, in quotation marks. I have no clue why he would add the quotation marks there. Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia. Over the past few weeks, despite my creating record achievements for our country, including a total and complete victory on the shutdown, closed borders, low taxes, no men and women's sports or transgender for everyone. What the fuck does that mean? Transgender for everyone. You get a transgender. You get a transgender. And you get a transgender. Everybody gets a transgender. It's a transgender for everyone. Everybody gets a transgender pet or lover or whatever else is your thing. Transgender for everyone. Ending DEI. Stopping Biden's record-setting inflation. Biggest regulation cuts in history. Stopping 8 wars. That's how he has not stopped 8 wars. And war number 9 is not even close to being concluded at this point. Rebuilding our military. Yeah, because before Trump, the US absolutely did not have the #1 military in the world. Oh yes, it did. It did. The military did not need a rebuilding, quote unquote. Also, he said that in the first term as well, that he rebuilt the military. He rebuilt it twice, I guess. Being respected by every country in the world. Okay. As opposed to being the laughingstock that we were just 12 months ago. Yeah, it's just Putin totally respects Trump. Oh, okay. Having trillions of dollars, record-setting, invested in the USA and having created the hottest country anywhere in the world from being a dead country just 12 months ago. And so much more? Wait, what does that mean? The country was dead 12 months ago and so much more than dead? Or does he mean and so much more accomplishments? Because in this sort of sentence, I feel it just reads as the country was dead and so much more. So much more than dead. All I see wacky Maitri to do is complain. It seemed to all begin when I sent her a poll stating that she should not run for senator or governor. She was at 12% and didn't have a chance unless, of course, she had my endorsement, which she wasn't about to get. She has told many people that she is upset that I don't return her phone calls anymore. But with 219 congressmen, women, 53 US senators, 24 cabinet members, almost 200 countries, and an otherwise normal life to lead. Trump leading a normal life. It is the biggest piece of nonsense in this entire post. I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day. I understand that wonderful conservative people are thinking about primary Marjorie in her district of Georgia, that they too are fed up with her and her antics, and if the right person runs, they will have my complete and unyielding support. She has gone far... Okay. I want to read that again. She has gone far left. Marjorie Taylor Greene has gone far left. Far left Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh my god. Even doing The View with their low IQ Republican hating anchors. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again! Marjorie Taylor Greene has gone far left.
And she's a Republican in name only, and she's a traitor. Still, Massey and his 3 Republican signatories refused to back.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is a disgrace to our great Republican Party. Oh my god. Comrade Marjorie Tanky Green, says Random 3PO. True. I could not have put it better. What a wonderful timeline. I don't know. They say reality is more interesting than fiction, and I'm definitely seeing that in action right now. Holy moly. I never expected Marjorie Taylor Greene to go far left.
back down. In an interview, Massey called Trump out for protecting pedophiles.
The deal for Republicans on this vote is that Trump will protect you if you vote the wrong way. In other words, if you vote to cover up for pedophiles, you've got cover in a Republican primary.
And meanwhile, as you probably saw, the Democrats released a portion of files which included emails between Epstein and several people discussing Trump's ties to Epstein and his potential knowledge about Epstein's pedophilia. And in retaliation, Trump told Attorney General Pam Bondi to launch a new investigation into only Democrats who were associated with Epstein. Pam Bondi to launch a new investigation.
Now that the Democrats are using the Epstein hoax involving Democrats, not Republicans, to try and deflect from their disastrous shutdown and all of their other failures, I will be asking AG Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice together with our great patriots of the FBI to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's involvement and relationship with Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, JP Morgan Chase, and many other people and institutions to determine what was going on with them and him. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm not against investigating as many people when it comes to the Epstein thing as possible, okay? I 100% believe that that was a bipartisan issue, quote unquote, and that people across the aisle partook in Epstein's thing, okay? I have no illusions about that. So you know what? Screw it. The more people get investigated for that, the better. This is another Russia scam with all arrows pointing to the Democrats. Records show that these men and many others spent large portions of their life with Epstein and on his island. Stay tuned. I mean, yeah, many others. Allegedly you included, so...
into only Democrats who were associated with Epstein. Now, unfortunately for Trump, public opinion is solidly in favor of releasing all the files.
Yep.
September poll revealed that 77% of Americans want the administration to release the full Epstein files, and since Massey and Khanna got their 218 signatures, there was no way to stop the rain. So it seems on Sunday, November 16th, Trump abruptly shifted his position, suddenly declaring that the Republicans should vote for the Epstein files to be released. In a post, Trump proclaimed, quote,
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I am up to date with this. Let's read. As I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media. Fake news media. Of course. House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide and it's time to move on from this Democratic hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein, are looking at various Democrat operatives. Bill Clinton was a Democrat operative. Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc. And their relationship to Epstein. And the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I do care about is that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we are winning big, our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing, bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts for the rich, gaining trillions of dollars of investment into America, a record. Fake Alec Parker says, it pisses me off because most of the left is ready to put Clinton into the guillotine and Trump is preventing that. Where's the... a record, the rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegal aliens, ending men and women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone. That one will never stop baffling me. Everybody gets a transgender of their own. And so much more. Nobody cared about Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive. And if the Democrats... What do you mean? I remember when he was alive. I remember when he was in jail. People absolutely cared about him when he was alive. What? It was a pretty loud case when he was alive. Whatever. If the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before our landslide election victory. Some members of the Republican Party are being used, and we can't let that happen. Let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. Make America great again. So if anything comes out on me in the files, just remember that we have big achievements. Okay, just remember my achievements.
Care and House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And he posted an article on the White House website arguing that really the Democrats are the ones who are hiding the truth about the Epstein files.
Of course.
So Johnson, with no option left except to do the right thing, actually held a vote on Tuesday. Remarkably, the House voted to pass the bill 427-1, with only Representative Clay Higgins against. And then it went to the Senate.
Curious.
Now, victory in the Senate definitely wasn't guaranteed. Senate leaders hadn't committed to holding a vote. And even if the bill did get a vote, it could be subject to amendments that would effectively gut it. In fact, after a friendly chat with Majority Leader John Thune, Johnson reported that he was confident that Thune would stymie the bill.
I called my counterpart in the Senate, Leader Thune, and I talked him through this with him and shared our deep concerns. And of course, they share those concerns as well. And so I'm very confident that when this moves forward in the process, if and when it is processed in the Senate, which there's no certainty that that will be, that they will take the time methodically to do what we have not been allowed to do in the House.
But it seems that Thune rejected Johnson's claim. And again, remarkably, the Senate passed the bill by unanimous consent and they deemed it passed. So it passed without amendment. So now it moves to President Trump's desk. Trump could theoretically veto the bill to prevent...
Okay, so he signed it. We already know he signed it. So what now?
And the disclosure of the Epstein files. But the margins are so high that even if Trump vetoes the bill, unless a whole bunch of votes change, Congress will override his veto. But that's not the end of the story. But there is yet one weird trick, because the Trump administration may still have an ace up its sleeve. Remember Pam Bondi's investigation? Well, by launching a new investigation, she may have thwarted the release of many of the documents. That's because Section 2 of the Epstein Files Transparency Act allows for the withholding of documents that would, quote, jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution. That BS investigation may not only stymie the release of documents under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, but also under the Freedom of Information Act. Because there are several ongoing lawsuits demanding the release of the files, but the Freedom of Information Act, like the Epstein Files Transparency Act, also contains a provision allowing for the withholding of records related to an active law enforcement investigation.
Oh, no.
So it's possible that even after all this trouble, the administration will argue that actually, according to the terms of the bill itself, it's allowed to still withhold the Epstein files because of this one weird trick, launching another bogus investigation against its political enemies. But it's not like the Trump administration has ever launched a bogus investigation into its political enemies, right? Massey and Khanna anticipated that Bondi would do an end run around the bill by reopening criminal investigations. But there are a few things to keep in mind here. Back in July, Bondi released a memo concluding that there was no Epstein client list and no credible information that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. Though that's interesting given that some of the emails that were released have journalist Michael Wolff talking about blackmailing Trump using Epstein's information. But she also said, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." What changed? Well, only that Trump's former personal attorney and now second in command of the DOJ, Todd Blanche, interviewed Maxwell in prison, and Trump demanded investigations into his political enemies. So you should treat Bondi's assertion that they suddenly found some new evidence with extreme skepticism. And Massey and Khanna presume that Bondi will work overtime to redact and withhold as much as possible. So the bill tried to cover that prospect by requiring Bondi to provide a detailed report to Congress listing what she withheld. Quote, "All redactions must be accompanied by a written justification published in the Federal Register and submitted to Congress."
Okay.
And in the event that Bondi withholds information because it's classified, she has to, quote, release an unclassified summary for each of the redacted or withheld classified information. And Bondi has 15 days from the report of redactions to submit a separate report to Congress. This report will contain a list of the following: 1, all categories of records released and withheld; 2, a summary of redactions made, including legal basis; 3, a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in the released materials, with no redactions permitted under subsection B1, though if these reports are submitted, people are going to be arguing about the redactions for years. On top of that, the Trump administration has had 9 months to monkey with the files that they have. There are reports that the DOJ
That's
already
true.
spent thousands
That is absolutely true. He might have tampered with them.
Person hours culling through the files looking for any reference to Trump. It's possible that they will improperly redact the files or outright withhold the worst documents for Trump, let alone claim that everything must remain protected because of the ongoing investigations. So you can bet this isn't the end and this will all be challenged in court. I just hope the pro-disclosure folks have a good lawyer. Luckily, I know a guy. Now, after I started this channel, every week I'd get hundreds of comments and emails from viewers who are dealing with legal problems, and they'd ask—
Okay, I think that's it. Beautiful. That was great. So we now understand that as much as the vote was done and we should be getting all the truth, I guess we might not be getting all of the truth. But now, I guess we continue this saga by I don't know. Clinton, Trump? How did I Google this? Trump alleged Clinton oral sex? The Telegraph. Trump did not perform sex act on Bill Clinton. What the What the hell? Ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing booba. From Mark L. Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein. Ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing booba. Convicted pedophile sibling referenced photos of Republican president blowing booba. Newly released emails show. What? U.S. Justice Department investigates Epstein's alleged ties to Clinton and bank after Trump request. I'm gonna Trump blow booba. Oh my god. Donald Trump blowing booba message in Epstein emails. An email in the Jeffrey Epstein files that references President Donald Trump blowing booba has attracted scrutiny on social media. On Wednesday, U.S. lawmakers released more than 20,000 pages of documents connected to Epstein, a convicted sex offender who died by suicide in a New York jail in 2019 while awaiting sex trafficking charges. Some of the documents mentioned Trump, including one from Epstein's brother Mark, which references photos of Trump blowing booba. Booba is a nickname for the former President Bill Clinton, but Mark Epstein told Newsweek The individual was not Clinton. He did not provide any additional details about the identity of Buba and said the emails were meant as humorous private exchange. Okay. Mark Epstein said in a statement sent to Newsweek recently, emails from 2018 between my brother and me were made public. They were simply part of a humorous private exchange between two brothers and were never meant for public release or to be interpreted as serious remarks. A horse? What? What do you mean, a horse? What the fuck? Where did the horse bit come from? Am I going to see any official source citing Trump possibly blowing a horse? Is that gonna happen? Am I going to go to the Guardian and the Guardian's gonna write a whole bit about that? Buba is nickname for a horse, apparently. Maybe it was Bill Clinton's horse. Mark Epstein said in a statement sent to Newsweek, that would be such a bizarre twist if Putin had a photo of Trump blowing a horse, and that would be the reason for this whole shitty mess that we are in when it comes to Ukraine. That would be something else. That would be something else entirely. Oh my God. Any attempt to conflate that reference with President Clinton or to read sweeping implications into them misrepresents both the purpose and the tone of the original correspondence. I want to be absolutely clear on this point so that the public record is not distorted and so that speculation does not unfairly implicate people who are not actually being referenced in those communications. It would have sounded so much credible if your brother was not a convicted sex trafficker, horrible monster. I would have believed this whole thing so much more. It was just a humorous exchange between me and my horrible, unredeemable monster of a brother that had a whole sex trafficking ring of kids. So, you know. Like, it would have sounded so much more credible in my ears. I don't know. Ears. Why it matters. Files related to Epstein continue to cause problems for Trump administration as bipartisan groups have called for greater transparency in the case and further publication of documents. Oh, there was also a contact with the Kremlin. An email sent in March 2018, Mark Epstein told Jeffrey Epstein to ask Steve Bannon, Trump's former chief strategist, if Russian President Vladimir Putin had the photos of Trump blowing Buba. You and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard, Mark Epstein wrote. I mean, for it to be a humorous exchange, it would need to have a kernel of truth in it. And that kernel of truth seems to be Trump blowing someone, allegedly. Newsweek also reached out to Bannon and the Kremlin by email to comment on this story outside of normal business hours. Posts on social media about the email have since gone viral, with people questioning what the email means. One user wrote, "Who is Buba and why did Trump blow him?" Call to Activism, an account with over 1.1 million followers, wrote, "What the fuck?" In one of the leaked emails, Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, suggests to ask Steve Bannon if Putin has the photo of Trump blowing booba, to which Epstein replied, and I thought, I had suris, which is Yiddish for troubles. Trump is also referenced in other documents, including in emails between Epstein and his associate Ghislaine Maxwell. What people are saying. President Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social in response to the newly released documents. Okay, I know this. Would it be more interesting if Trump directly responded to the booba thing in some way? No, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? What happens next? Soon the House of Representatives will vote on whatever the publicity released the full set of Epstein-related government records after a petition to force vote surpassed. Okay. So I guess Trump allegedly either blew a horse, a child, or Bill Clinton. That's where we are with this whole mess right now. There was a blowing going on. Because Trump is, I guess, a blowhard. Get it? Get it? Okay. Where does that leave us? Do we have anything else on this? I swear I wanted to check out one more thing. I've checked out the emails. I've checked out the booba thing. What else was there? Was there anything else? Is there any new development to this crap? I'm just gonna Google that. The Native American thing is not related to Epstein. Hello, Greater Rain. Survivors wait hope and fear as Epstein files set for release. I guess we're gonna end it with this. For Marina Lancerda. Oh, nice. The upcoming publication of U.S. government files on Jeffrey Epstein represent more than an opportunity for justice. Lancerda says she was just 14 when Epstein started sexually abusing her at his New York mansion, but she struggles to recall much of what happened because it is such a dark period in her life. Now she's hoping that the files will reveal more about the trauma that distorted so much of her adolescence. I feel that the government and the FBI knows more than I do, and that scares me, because it's my life, it's my past, she told the Associated Press. President Donald Trump signed legislation Wednesday that will force the Justice Department to release documents from its voluminous file on Epstein. We have waited long enough. We've fought long enough. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll see what will happen. We're just gonna have to see. So I guess that's it when it comes to the Epstein files. The victims remain hopeful. We'll see what will happen. I guess.